Hey, this is Yulia and welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about everything you need to know about working in Canada. Benefits, insurance, salary and much more. And I've invited my dear friends Anna and Anastasia from Make That Change to help me navigate this topic.
Hi guys! My name is Anastasia from Make That Change and I'm very excited to talk with Yulia about work culture in Canada.
But wait, there is more. We filmed a video about work culture in Canada, so don't forget to check that video out after you finish watching this one.
Let's go!
There are a few options how you can work in Canada. Depending on the document you have, study permit, work permit, PR, you have a limited number of hours. Let's say if you are a student in Canada, you can work only 20 hours while studying and then 40 hours when you have your time off. Generally speaking, there are just a few types of work in Canada. First of all, full-time, 40 hours per week, regular job, 9 to 5, whatsoever. The second option is a part-time job, meaning you work half of those. You're not getting any benefits, insurances, stuff like that, but we'll cover that a bit later. There are also some contract positions available. For example, if there is an employee taking a parental leave, then your contract might just be for that amount of time, for example, a year, so that would be a 1-year contract. And of course, there are remote jobs, freelance jobs, especially if you're working in IT, especially after COVID, a lot of companies are working remotely, they do hybrids and stuff. But in this video, when we say remote or freelance, we're mostly talking about freelance, meaning self-employed, when you don't have a set employer, but you look for companies and jobs and gigs yourself. There's a lot that goes into what a company has to offer you, and it's not only the salary, and that's what we're gonna break down for you.
First, it is common in North America to refer to salary in two ways: the annual and hourly rate. Your annual rate will go like 100K or 50K per year, which essentially refers to how much money you make in an entire year. And then another way to refer to it is an hourly rate, and it's much more common for part-time or contract employees, and it will go something like $10 per hour, or however you want to charge. The stated number is always before tax and before any deductions that the company makes. Things like insurance, employee insurance, perks and benefits, and tax. And if you work in IT, you'll have a base salary, your RSUs, your stock options, and sometimes a sign-up bonus. Some roles also include commission, and it's very prevalent among sales teams, and there's really no limit to how much commission you can make, and it solely depends on your personal performance. Speaking of performance, your initial salary can grow in a lot of different ways. And it is typical to at least expect an annual performance review and a potential salary increase. And the minimum salary increase that you should always expect to have is between 2 to 3%, which is somewhat equal to inflation. Well, not in these days, but generally speaking. And if your role changes and your responsibilities grow, it can go a lot higher than that. It can be 10, 15, or even 20%.
Normally, you would get a bi-weekly salary, meaning every 2 weeks, twice a month, but there are also companies that can pay you monthly. For example, if you're working remotely, you're doing freelance or contracts, sometimes they'll be invoice us for the whole month and then we're gonna pay you at the end of this month. Did you know that in Canada all the salaries are pre-tax? Meaning, if you ask for 100K salary, that's gonna be around 80,000 after all the taxes, after all the deductions. Don't forget that your taxes will depend on your province. For example, in Quebec we have the highest taxes, but in other provinces the taxes can be lower. Alright, how much money are they taking from you? First of all, you have taxes. You have federal taxes, meaning Canada is taking a piece of your salary. Second one is provincial, so the province, in my case it was Quebec, in girl's case it's Ontario, they taking a piece of that cake. There are also a bunch of mandatory deductions like insurance, parental insurance. When they say they give you insurance at work, you should know that they're taking that from your salary, my friend. But on the other hand, it's not a full price. It's just a tiny amount that's charged every 2 weeks, every month, depending on the company. So, it's not that bad. But speaking of benefits, what are those?
Benefits in Canada are extra nice things that you get as part of your total compensation in addition to your salary. And it can be literally anything. Here are some of the most common benefits examples. Insurance is by far the most common benefit, and it's pretty much table stakes in almost every company. The type of coverage of insurance depends on the company, but you should always expect at least to get dental, eye, and healthcare coverage up to 90% and sometimes even 100%. Your insurance will typically kick in at 3 months, which is once you've passed your probation. However, you can always negotiate your insurance to start on day 1 if you'd like so. And the cool thing about insurance is it also covers a lot of really fun things like massages, acupuncture, therapy, naturopath, nutritionist, and other fun doctors. The actual insurance coverage unfortunately cannot be negotiated because if that's the case, it would have to be renegotiated for the entire company. What you can do, however, is you can opt into insurance for your family, your spouse, and your kids, and they don't have to be employed by your company in order to get your company's insurance because they're your family. Vacation is another table stakes item. 2 to 3 weeks is the most common minimum in most of companies. Some companies offer vacation based on your experience and your tenure at the company. The longer you stay at the company and the more experience you have, the longer your vacation package will be. It's also becoming a trend among startups and the cool tech companies to offer unlimited vacations. However, the typical time to take a vacation still never exceeds 6 weeks, according to research. There's actually a fun stat in the industry that exists that among all the companies that offer unlimited vacation, the average time that people take vacation for is about 4 weeks, which is pretty much the same as if you were just offered 4 weeks. Another thing you should keep in mind is that most companies offer personal days or sick days off too. They technically can add up to your time off, and these days are specifically designed for you to take time off if you're not feeling well or you're feeling sick. You don't need to provide a doctor's note, however, unless you're taking more than 3 sick days off in a row. Some companies also offer days off for volunteering work of your choice.
Official holidays. In most cases in Canada, it would be either Friday or Monday, so people can have a long weekend. For example, if we have Easter, you can either take a Good Friday, so your days off gonna be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or you can take a Good Monday, so your days off gonna be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. This way, it's not like a random day somewhere in the middle of the week, so you can't even leave the city or whatsoever. So Monday or Friday in most cases. But please bear in mind that some provinces have their own holidays. For example, in Quebec we have Saint Jean-Baptiste. It's celebrated on 24th of June, while the rest of the Canada is working, Quebec is celebrating, and vice versa. Some of the benefits can be taking sick days, no questions asked days. You can use those days to take care of your kids, to take care of your families. If it's a no questions asked day, you can just, stay at home and do nothing. If you're feeling like you don't want to work, well, just stay at home, relax, so the next day you can come back to work and be productive. But there's always a limited number of those days. For example, I had 5 sick days per year and 5 no questions asked days. But of course, if you have a doctor's note, then it might be more sick days, as long as you have this paper saying, I was in the hospital, I was sick, I had a surgery, then you're gonna be fine. But those 5 days, they mostly for, I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna stay home. And a pro tip here, you're not forced to take the whole day off. For example, if you need to take your kid to a doctor's appointment, you can just take 3 hours and that's it. You have 5 days, 8 hours each, like a working day, so it's 40 hours. And then from this 40 hours, you can just substitute numbers, so you don't have to spend a whole day taking a sick day, even though the appointment was just for 3 hours. There is also a whole bunch of leaves: maternity, paternity, parental, sick leave. First of all, the government will give you a certain amount of weeks if you're taking a maternity leave, but then there might be some additional weeks from the province. But then your employer can be also, hey, take this 8 extra weeks for taking care of your kid. This way you can spend more time with your kid, with your family, or whatsoever. You can also take a sabbatical or a gap year if you need to, for example, study. You can talk to your employer and be like, hey, I want to study, take a gap year, work gap year, study, and then come back to work. They will fill your position, for example, for a year, a contract position like we've talked before. So then after a year, you come back and you have your job.
Ever since COVID started, many companies also implemented a work from home policy. And depending widely on the company, many have become fully remote, and some have become hybrid with 2 to 3 days per week at the office. Some companies that have removed offices completely can now offer you co-working spaces in case you want to get some work done and you don't feel like doing it at home. Now you have the luxury of choosing which work arrangement works best for you and your family. And other typical perks and benefits that you should expect are things like your equipment or the things that you need in order to do your job well. It can be things like laptops, your keyboards, your headsets, your phone if you spend a lot of your time talking on the phone. Some of them even pay your phone bill for that. It is also common for employers to offer you education or learning budget for things that you want to learn or upskill yourself with. Let's say you want to take a course on communication, for example, or you want to get better at marketing or social media. You can come to your employer and ask them to pay for your courses. This learning budget can also cover things like events, books, or conferences that you want to attend that are relevant to the job that you're doing. The best examples of the learning budget that I've seen is some companies that are larger and more profitable are offering to pay you a portion of your master's degree, like MBA, for example. Another thing that I'd like to mention is your breaks, or the time off you take during your workday. Breaks generally is an essential part of everyone's workday, and it's not optional. In fact, it's your legal right according to the Canadian Labour Code. For every 4 hours of work, you're legally entitled to at least 15 minutes of break. And if you work an 8-hour day, you should expect to get at least 30 minutes paid by your employer. Oftentimes, employers match the minimum required break time, so you can get up to 1 hour of paid break by your employer if you work an 8-hour workday.
Many companies, especially in IT, would offer you gym memberships, different kind of perks, discounts, employee events, stuff like that. But also some companies will match your contributions. For example, in Canada, if you want to save money and put a piece of your salary, for example, to RRSP, well, some employers we're gonna match that. So you will have basically a doubled amount. And speaking of money, there are always performance reviews, there are always bonuses, salary increases. Let's not forget about those ones. But what if you actually don't like your job and you wanna quit? What do you do now?
And if it's time for you to explore new challenges and look for something new, the standard practice is to give a 2 weeks notice to your employer if you'd like to resign and leave your job. If you've worked with a company for less than a year, legally you should only give 1 week of notice. But it's still common and a nice gesture to give 2 weeks of notice. And if you stay with the company for longer, 5 years or more, it is expected that you give 4 weeks notice to give your employer enough time to find a replacement for you and also train them for the job that you had done before. One thing to note here is that if you worked with a company for longer than a year and you give your 2 weeks notice, it may happen that your employer decides to let you go on the day of you giving your resignation. This is, depending on the company and the industry you're in, is standard practice. The employer will still pay you for the remaining 2 weeks of your work. It's just that they don't want you to be accessing the sensitive company's information during that time, given that you're about to leave the company, and they want to prevent you taking their information with you, potentially.
If you are laid off, something happened, they decided they don't want you anymore, the company will pay you for another 2 or 4 weeks. So basically either 1 or 2 salaries. Some companies may offer you even more than that, but again, always depends on the company. But it also depends on the years you've spent with the company, because if you work there for a year, chances are you're gonna get like 1-2 salaries maximum. If you spend 5 or 10 years with this company, chances are you will get a bit more than that. And if you're fired, that means you are fired. No insurance, no benefits, no extra salaries, no nothing. You're fired. C'est ça, mon ami.
And here are a few more things that we think you should know about work culture in Canada. Work-life balance is no joke. So don't even call or message your boss or colleagues after hours. Unless it's an emergency or unless you're friends with your colleagues and just want to share some fun memes. In return, don't feel like you have to respond to your boss's email or messages or calls after your workday ends.
If you are applying for jobs, never Message people on social media saying, hey, you know, I've applied for that job at that company. Use only emails and LinkedIn. No Facebook messengers, no Instagram saying, hey girl, you working at this company? I want to work for you guys too. Good thing if those people didn't block you right away. I would. Do not break into my personal space, amigo. I don't want that. In most of the companies, management is nice and is always there to help you thrive. You can always discuss your goals, your growth plan. Especially during interviews, I think it's a nice question to ask, saying, hey, like, how do you help your employees grow? Because how else you gonna learn if you're not growing, right? And bear in mind that HR is there to protect the company, not the employee. So if you are planning to make a complaint because that guy over there, I don't like him, well, be careful, because you can be the one in trouble after all. And this is it for today. I hope you learned something new about working in Canada. Don't forget to watch the other video we filmed about working culture in Canada. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!